Afternoon, everyone. We're going to call this meeting to order. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes and start the meeting?
So moved.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Hi, Commissioner Nelson. All right, we are joined by 4 out of 7 our commissioners, and we are going to go ahead and start this meeting. We're going to start with the agenda, and first would be the introduction to the Legislative and Public Communications Project Coordinator for Miss Brandy Curtis Richards. So I'll let Ms. Warner Wiggins do that, and then we'll hear from Miss Curtis Richards.
Yeah, so I wanted to introduce you all to Brandy Curtis Richards. She just started with the Office of Finance on Monday. So she is brand new to county government. And her part of her role will be to assist with various legislative initiatives that involve the Office of Finance, including the Fair Election Fund Commission. And so she'll be providing staff support. Of course, I'll still be around as well, but she'll be able to assist with outreach efforts, correspondence, all of the types of activities that you would need in order to move the program forward. So just want to welcome Brandy. Brandy, I don't know if you have anything you want to say.
Have a speech prepared for today. No, I'm very much looking forward to working with you all and being of use. Happy to answer any questions about myself or my background if you have any. Yeah, really excited about this opportunity.
Jade, I think you're muted.
I was about to say, we're commissioners with lots of questions, so I'm sure one or two of us have a couple of questions. I will say, just can you give a little bit more context to how your position would help us in context to our own goals in relation to the Fair Elections Fund?
Sure, I'll jump in with that. So essentially, the types of activities that I was assisting you with, we can start directing them to Brandy as the primary point of contact. So in terms of arranging meetings with or attempting to arrange meetings with members of county council, county leadership, again, dispersing correspondence, outreach activities, so any arranging with outside organizations, so scheduling, things along those lines. So kind of just, again, providing that administrative support to the commission as needed.
Ms. Warner Wiggins, this sounds like a soft goodbye. I don't know what's going on here, Ms. Warner. I thought we had I thought we were keeping it real cute. We got the times earlier today. We get out on time. What's going on?
I will still be around. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still with the Office of Finance. And of course, I'll still be joining the meetings at least in the foreseeable future as well.
Awesome. Good to see you, Commissioner Tolson. Well, if we could just go around and give a quick introductions for Ms. Curtis Richards so she can know who we are. Hi, my name is Parker. It's Jana Parker, but everyone generally refers to me as Parker. And I am the chair of this commission and been doing work around fair elections and just generally activism for a long time within Prince George's County. It's actually an honor to be on this commission with the people that are on it. All of them are amazing individuals who have a lot of experience in various capacities of supporting Prince George's County in all of their roles. So I more so am just honored to be on this commission with the commissioners that I have more than anything else. So I think I'll pass it to Commissioner Satitra.
Thanks, Jana. So I'm Suchitra Balachandran. Sorry for not turning my video on. It's 3:30 in the morning where I am right now, so probably best if you don't see me. I am the vice chair of the commission. I have been active on this topic since about 2016, when we worked to get the legislation passed in 2018. I worked with then Council Member Mary Lehman. So kind of concerned in some sense about the lack of funding for the project and where we see this going as we move towards the 2026 election. So that's where I am. I have followed the programs in Howard, Montgomery. I don't know the details of the program in Baltimore City, but that's currently in progress. Baltimore City is running the program right now, and a candidate using public financing, I think, defeated a council member who had been there for probably 11 years. You know, just following what's going on elsewhere. And yeah, that's where I am. Thank you. Passing it on to Dan Smith.
Hello, Livin Cheverly was appointee from the council and also was involved as an advocate for the program when it was being established, and participated in some public outreach meetings that were pretty well attended and popular back. I don't know if there were 3 across the county, but there were some outreach meetings that really helped explain the program and develop support for it, and look forward to doing more of that now. So it seems to be a phase right now where we have a need and an opportunity to explain the program and get it out there so that it can be successful. So
Pass it on to Commissioner
Yeah.
Commissioner Tolson.
Please forgive me, I don't have on my reading glasses, so I have to sit far back. Cecilia Tolson, my friends affectionately call me CC for short, and I think I am the last member to join the board. So this is my first foray into commissionership, if that's a real word. And I just found it interesting that with everything going on with the election, and especially the local things that we had, that I feel like everyone calls me now, like I know all the voting rules. He was like, hey, when can we vote? Why can't we vote? So I think it's tried to make me be a little more intentional about knowing those things. Like if you want to run for office, what does that mean? You know, where do you go? What are the websites and that sort of thing? So I'm just looking forward to doing a good thing. That's it. Thanks.
And Commissioner Nelson.
Good evening. Keisha Nelson. Like Commissioner Tolson, I am a community member, don't have the background as the other commissioners, really entrenched in this topic, just an overall community advocate, very interested in voting rights. And when this came about, I was all for it and put my hat in the ring and was selected. So I'm here to serve and to learn. So I'm excited.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you all. Cool beans. And then yes, let's have staff go ahead, please.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Terry Bell. I'm Assistant County Attorney with the Office of Law, and Mr. Leroy Maddox is going to join us shortly. He's our Legislative Counsel for the County Council. So it's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Ms. Allen?
No, Brandy knows us.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for the introductions. I appreciate that.
No worries, no worries. Does any other commissioners have any questions for Ms. Richards?
Not yet.
I was like, wait, what? we don't have no more questions.
Quiet now, we won't be quiet later.
Right. We'll get about 3 minutes into this meeting and then we'll have some more questions. Okay, well, let's listen. You guys know me. I'm very much about keeping the agenda flowing. So let's go ahead and move on to the FY 2025 supplemental budget request. Just kind of from the perspective of, have we had any updates? Anybody heard anything from that? We were really excited when we wrote the letter, we sent it. We were expecting some immediate feedback. As it stands right now, I haven't heard that we've gotten anything back. And so I just kind of wanted to touch bases and talk about that and maybe next steps in context to kind of really pressing out the supplemental budget request. So Ms. Warner-Wiggins, did you guys get anything? And maybe they just didn't CC us?
No, I did not get a response.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about next steps. As you guys know, we are in the middle of, and to be transparent, we are in the middle of an election cycle. We have a possibility of, I think, maybe at least one definite special election is going to be happening within December, with the possibility of another special election, which could result in another special election, which could result in another special election. And so there is a potential right now in this season, just based on how everything is, that there could be 3 to 4 special elections within our county. That in itself could cost between $500,000 to $800,000 as a minimum per each special election. And that's based on some of the data that we had gotten in context to the special election for the estimates on the special election for what we know to be District 5, which will be within the next couple of months. That's not to think about a countywide election, which just recently happened, which I think it was like, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was like 1.2 million or thereabout that.
6.6.
Yeah, that we spent on a countywide election, which we theoretically might have to spend again on another countywide election. And then I don't have to reiterate to the commissioners, but for the purpose of anyone just joining us or just watching us, it's important that we move forward the Fair Election Fund and really fund it so that all candidates have the ability to participate and be in this electoral process, and that grassroots candidates have the option to really, for lack of a better term, play ball on the same scale as other candidates. And that's really the point of why a lot of the constituency pushed this bill, and that's why it was passed. But one of the things that's the issue is that it's not being fully funded. And we were told that there wasn't enough money for it. We were told, well, there's not $400,000 for it. But we got $500,000 for one special election, another $500,000 for another special election, and we're gonna have 1.2 million for another special election. We were just asking for a little bit. So I think we all came up with, as a commission, the request for the supplemental budget. We sent out a letter, and we have yet to get a response. And I think we need to talk about next steps in regards to pushing our suit. So before I give my ideas, I just want to ask if anyone else has some thoughts about how to move forward next. Yeah, Dan, come off mute.
Yeah, I think so it seems like we would want to follow up with the supplemental request, but also it's very much, this is the time when the next full fiscal year budget for 26 is beginning to be assembled, we understand. So I think it's important that we get in that discussion as well. So I guess one of the things I'm wondering, is there some internal administrative avenue to raise this? So we've got our letter. Can we request a meeting with like the budget director, or in the Office of Finance, or a combination of Office of Finance and budget director, so that we could be clear our request and get feedback about what might be ways to have that go through, or what are some of the impediments so that we could address those? So I'm wondering if maybe some of this is a staff request is within the administration. I mean, do we have to go to the head of the Office of Budget and make that request, or can we make that and you all deliver that so that we can set up any meetings or on that?
Yes, we can request that on your behalf and do the scheduling as well. So in terms of an actual meeting, and we don't have to figure this out right now, but one thing we would need to know is availability of the commissioners. But we can definitely arrange for a meeting on your behalf.
Okay, so then can we, and you said with those two people, so then can we this week, Ms. Warner Wiggins, maybe send out an email to all the commissioners asking for their availability in context to theirs so that we can go ahead and just get this on the books
Yeah.
to immediately have the meetings to move it fast.
Yes, we could do. I can do that.
And then do I follow up? Do we I mean, it's fine with me if we have a if the chair and maybe another person, it may be helpful at some point for all of us to be there, but I'm not sure we all need to be in on all the meetings. So I'm fine with, if and having smaller meetings for some of the process.
I think that's fine. I also want to be mindful of if anyone wants to be there, they definitely can. I think to a point, to something that's coming up as you're talking, Dan, I also think maybe like figuring out drafting a follow-up letter. Like, hey, we sent you this letter. We're just checking back in because I don't want too much time to go by. I honestly just want to keep it at the forefront. Like, hey, we've been asking. We're going to keep asking. Like, we're just following up to make sure that this is on your radar. Commissioner Satitra. Oh,
Yeah,
Commissioner Dana, were you done?
yeah, thanks. I mean, I think that's good if we can get a meeting and if we can, I mean, I like both the ideas. If a smaller group could meet or whoever is available could meet whenever the the appropriate staff person is available for us to meet. As long as we can have 3 or 4 people in there or as many as who can join. I think, so there's a couple of things, right? This supplemental budget. I mean, I understand there is a supplemental budget in the works, and I also understand that a big supplemental budget will happen in December, a request for a supplemental budget. I'm just wondering, I mean, it's both about the supplemental budget. I also understand that the FY 2026 budget, there's something called, I was told it's called the budget school, where all the various departments start gathering up how much they would need for the next cycle. And I don't want us to be caught between that and this, because this is an urgent, in some sense, an urgent request to say that if we don't know fairly soon what is going on, then the consequences, by the next year would be sort of dire for this program. So, I mean, I wanted to make sure that we are actually focusing on the supplemental ask now to find out how likely that would be and what we do to make that happen. So that's sort of what I wanted to put out in the context of this discussion.
And so that you're aware, the budget school is essentially the kickoff to the budget development season. We actually had the budget school meeting today. And so what it is the convening of the various county agencies to get a better understanding of what the budget submission requirements will be. So that did take place today.
Okay. And those are all, I mean, those are all much larger scale numbers, right? Than the numbers that we're dealing with. We're dealing with sort of a deficit in the fund right now. I was also wondering, in that context, Ms. Warner-Wiggins, you know, the director of finance makes the decision on what happens if there's a shortfall. So can we have some kind of input from the director of finance? I mean, we know what the finance is now. So what would, you know, what would his her decision be? I mean, if the current financial situation continues, if we could have a read on that. I mean, there is no, there is no magic to the numbers between now and February if there is no funding, no additional funding in the program. So if we could have a discussion on what might be recommendations that come forth from there, I think. I mean, we are sort of guessing as a commission what the recommendations might be, but I wonder if we could get any kind of feel for that now, because time is moving and we're not getting any answers.
Well, I certainly can reach out to the director and get a sense of where he would lean if a decision had to be made today. But of course, it is hard. We're all working with very limited information. So it would be just an estimate or a guess, as opposed to any kind of definitive answer to that question.
Thanks.
Can you clarify, just from my own understanding, when you say limited information, like what necessarily do you mean by that?
So we have a dollar figure now, but what we don't have is anyone who's at least that I'm aware of, that's expressed interest in participating in the program. So, and that would make a difference. For instance, you know, who's interested in for what offices they're running would be a piece of information that we don't have right now.
Okay.
It's sort of a chicken and egg thing, right? I mean, if there's, I mean, one of the jobs of the commission and one of the jobs of the elected officials is to move the program forward. And with what kind of straight face can we go out into the public and say, please run as a publicly financed candidate when there is no money in the budget, right? I mean, it's, we're supposed to encourage this program. It is supposed to boost democracy. It is supposed to lead to a more people-driven government. It's supposed to reduce the effect of special interests in governing, and we can't do any of that without some show of support from the elected officials that they really mean to move this program forward.
And I think that's like part of the issue that we've been having just as a commission. Like when we think about going and promoting this program and telling people, hey, come in, come in, come in. But we don't want to tell candidates to come into a program that isn't fully funded. And I don't think that that's fair to the candidates either. But we do want to support and promote this program. And I think as a commission, we've given several different options on how to fund this program, several different ways, several different ideas on like the funding and how to do this and how to do that. And we've been met with no response. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I think it is just a little bit, for lack of a better term, disheartening when we are committed to this. We are doing the work. We are reaching out. We are asking just for whatever crumbs you sat and offered, 400,000, go ahead and give it to us. And then we didn't even get that. And now we are on the heels of spending a large amount of money for potentially 3 or 4 special elections. Yes, Dan.
So it seems like it's still a little bit early for, we're in the middle of this election season. It seems a little early for candidates to be declaring for 2 years from now. And certainly by next July, that might be more feasible and realistic. But just maybe a technical question that we need to think about is like, if, let's say, a candidate does take the leap of faith and say they're going to run a publicly financed campaign, and they go through the process, set it up, and start getting donations over the winter to qualify and all that. One thing I guess we want to address would be, what if the whole thing falls apart and there's not money for it? What's the status then? Can that be converted to a regular campaign and just have that money go into a regular campaign fund? So we might want to look at that, and maybe our legal advisors can look at that scenario and come back to us and give us some advice. Do we have the authority to establish parameters that would allow that, or does that have to go through an amendment of the law? But on the other hand, I can see if somebody really doesn't want to take the risk and try to run, then in some ways that creates some public visibility and pressure on the current council to fund it, to put up. But that's a huge effort for someone to do, to go out and get a lot of the small donations with the promise to those donating that they're going to have their amount matched, and then we don't know if it will be matched.
I think that's a very good legal question that we need to answer to, in context to, if this isn't fully funded, can they convert back to a regular campaign? And then I would also offer the caveat that, and this may be, and I just may be thinking legislatively, but if they could take all the funds that they raised, including the matching dollars as well, because it's not their fault that the program isn't working to its ability, like the council didn't fund it. So if they go in with, full faith that the program will work or whatever may have you, and then it's not funded by the council, particularly if this is a candidate that's running for a council seat, then that should be an issue, and where they would be able to not only just get their money back, but get the money that was matched to them and be able to convert to a regular fund. I see you came on the color, Ms. Bell. Do you have an answer for us, or options, or?
I think it's something that Mr. Maddox and I are going to have to research. I don't think I can give you in all fairness, give you an answer right now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also just ask that take special interest into the scenario that I just brought up, in context to someone running for a council seat and wanting to do public finance, and if there's any conflict or whatever, in context to the council then not funding the fair elections to the full amount, and how that could impact the council.
So I was just thinking about, first of all, I think if there's a shortage of funds in the program, people are not going to run publicly financed. It's going to discourage people who might otherwise have thought of running publicly financed, especially the kinds of candidates this program is supposed to encourage to run. They are not they may not typically be political candidates in the traditional sense. They may be community-based candidates who have a lot of community support, but may not be political names already. Those candidates will not run, first of all. And I think it will limit the number of people who run. And I think as far as it also brings a terrible optics to the county. If 3 or 4 other counties have already run this program, and the amount of money in the program is actually minuscule compared to the entire budget, even the operating budget of the county. I think the optics are terrible. So, I mean, it's not clear to me why we are the only people worrying about this. And, we're not getting much of a response from our elected officials on this, especially given that the revised sort of the technical revisions that were made, and I mean, this is not the 2018 legislation. There were technical revisions made to the bill, and this council passed that bill with a 10-to-1 vote, and it was signed by this executive. So you think it is this elected body that took ownership of the program with that vote? So I'm just, it's not clear to me where it is all this is going, but I just wanted to point those out. What I suspect is that there would be a push to say it's not funded, so let's move the program to 2030, right? I mean, that would be the easy solution out for everybody who is in office, to not fund this and to move the program. And so we should be aware of that as well. We had this program, which was legislated in 2018, already moved back 8 years from then. Yeah, I see Dan has his hand raised.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope we would move forward with all the effort we can to have as strong a program as possible for 2026 and not have it bump. And that means getting some substantial funding one way or the other in the supplemental and or in the next budget. But I do wonder if we have 400,000 now, and am I correct that just trying to remember, I don't have it all in front of me, but the district council races would have, they would be $75,000, is that correct?
Yeah, the
That's
matching
correct.
fund. Yeah.
Okay, so if that's 75, so we actually, there's enough money in there for 5 of those candidates at the moment. And so therefore, I think we could, in our public messaging and meetings and all, we could be encouraging people to run and to be planning their campaigns and thinking about it and doing it, and that maybe that will help create some visibility and pressure on the council to increase the funding so that we could actually have enough for someone running for an at-large or for the county executive. But I think I would feel confident right now of it's a risk, but saying that yes, run, do a publicly financed campaign, get your campaign ready, because there's enough money in there for some candidates, and it's not an easy thing to qualify and to do that. So I think we should be encouraging people to run, to explore this, because I think we still could have, maybe it would come down that the Office of Finance would say, well, we only have enough money to finance district campaigns and not an at-large, for example. I mean, I don't want it to come to that at all, but so I think we should, in our messaging, go ahead and encourage people and put out information about how to do this as part of our outreach.
I agree. I feel like we shouldn't be telling people not to use the fund. I think we should be encouraging them to use the fund. And I think that, to be honest, at this juncture, there is money in there for at least, a couple of candidates to do district runs in whatever capacity, and we should encourage them to do so. I do want to look into the questions that we asked the lawyers. So I do want like that information to come back as we are encouraging people. But I don't feel like we should be telling them not to. There's money there, someone can run. That's really kind of, I feel the same way. Are any other commissioners' thoughts on that?
I just had a quick question. I thought that that the money was originally funded, this 400K, and then at some time that money was earmarked for something else.
So remember, we got an initial amount of 400K, and then this next budget cycle, it was earmarked for an additional 400K, even though we asked for a different amount.
Understood.
They took the 400,000 out. That would have took the fund up to 800K.
Okay,
They took that out of the budget, so we still have 400 in the pot.
understood. Okay, just wanted to make sure I was following.
Yes,
No, no
just
worries.
the initial 400, I think this is a bookkeeping issue, was in some other pot, and earmarked to be moved to the right pot, which was done. So we do have 400 in the correct pot right now. I mean, I wanted to make one comment as well, because, I mean, the funding originates with the exec's office. So while we talk about the council a lot, because we are in touch with council members and so on, I think we also have to be aware that council by itself can move money around, but doesn't actually start. The origin of the funds is with the exec. So our request was to the exec. Our letter was to the exec.
And I think we still can push that letter being to the exec. That's why I think we should do it like the follow-up, like, hey, did you get our letter? I know things are busy right now for you, but did you get our letter? Did you see it? And then kind of also pressing upon the council. I'm really interested in the answer to that question. If somebody was running and they just didn't fund it, if that would be a conflict. But yeah, we had to make sure that we ask her, reinforce it, throw a letter back to her, and then ask the county council as well. I kind of want to be mindful of time, and we're at 6:41. I know we're slated to go for a while, but I do want to make sure that we're hitting all the points. I kind of want to, if we're done with this part of the conversation, I'd like to move to the outreach plan. If everybody's okay with that. I see head nodding and whatnot. Thank you so much. For like the little, what is that, the Sesame Street boxes? Anyway. All right. So, okay, so the outreach plan. Guys, we've been talking about this outreach plan for, I feel like months at this point. We've all like, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And at this point, I just kind of want to like legitimately nail some things down and like actually execute. One of the things that came up is I know we have the PowerPoint and we like edited the PowerPoint and we agreed on it, we voted on it and things of that nature. And then we also came up with, all right, we're going to use the edited PowerPoint and then we're going to have a script. And then at some point we were talking about doing the script with the PowerPoint and having a recorded session. So as well as having sessions throughout the county. So my question would be just for making sure that this actually gets done, that we do this, that we move forward with a level of outreach. It was also suggested that we do something to the effect of have a presentation as part of our meeting, and we go through the presentation and we go through like I'm on the meeting. Oh, okay, thanks. Sorry. So that we actually have the presentation as part of one of our meetings. We go through the PowerPoint, we go through the script, and we actually have that. And that if Ms. Warner-Wiggins could, I guess, truncate that part off and have it be able to be on the website as part of our outreach, and then we could also send it out to the civic associations and things of that nature. So thoughts. That's the first part of the thought of the outreach. Commissioner Nelson, I see some things percolating. Okay.
Just thinking.
Okay. Okay.
Like, for the presentation,
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of having it available, but I'm trying to if it's better to have just the PowerPoint, or would it be better for us to like do a recorded Zoom session, like, you know, it's
Mm-hmm.
presentation, but it'll be recorded with actually someone talking, like is that what you mean though?
Yes, that's what I mean. Yes, yes.
Like,
I mean, like us doing it on one of our, us doing it on one of these meetings, probably the next one, or doing it before the election, because I think our next meeting is November the 13th, and I feel like the election is definitely before then. But or it's not before then. I'm sorry. Okay, I was about to say, I was like, remember it's before then. So maybe just having it done that way.
I like that idea. That way, even if we don't get to meet out in public with people in person, is that if you're interested, you have more than what we have out there now to sort of explain it. Because it looks like, oh, you need money, we got it. But there are some stipulations, I think we don't match funds from your family members or something. You got to live in the county. I can't remember it all. But I think it should be clear and not just look like, oh, we got plenty of money out here if you want to run for office.
I think to your point, we would have to, now this would be a standardized, we'd have to really work on that script, because to your point, yes, we do have money, but we could say like, as of this date, we have this much money, and these are how many seats can run with this much money. I think that will be important to put into the script, because if we just, say, hey, we got money, but we don't got a lot of money, that's kind of, we could just work on the messaging, but I think that that's fair and appropriate while explaining it.
Nice to have I guess like a little process flow to say, am I eligible? Or how can I be eligible as well, versus writing, a whole bunch of information that people may or may not read, but something easily where I can look at it and say, oh, I live in the county. That's one box I check. If I don't live in the county, that's a no. And sort of go through just I'm thinking, I don't know, 6 to 8 boxes or whatever, for someone to easily go on and see if they would indeed be eligible for it, just at a high level. See a note there.
I think that's good I just sent to ask her if Ms. Warner-Wiggins could add that slide onto the presentation. Are there any other things that we feel like we would add on to the presentation? I do like the idea of like these are things you checked if you're eligible. Dan?
Well, I just think I need to go back and look at it again. And I
Let
think
me ask you some of that.
I think it would still be appropriate to include some references to the substance of our letter for the supplemental budget request, so that there's enough money in it from right 5 candidates running for district, but there's not enough for much anything beyond that, so that it would be appropriate to include that we have made, we are seeking additional funding for this program through in this year's budget and in next year's budget, so that we're and those supporting the program should weigh in with their council members on that and the executive.
I agree with that. I think that we should add that slide, and then I guess put in context, like making sure that we have those dates. Like, hey, as of right now, as of this date, we have this much money. This is how much we requested in order to fully fund it for all these seats. Because we have 400,000, 5 people can run for district seats, or 3 people can run for district seats and 2 people can run for an at-large seat, like kind of breaking it down for this is what we have the money for as of right now in real time. That way, when they're looking at it, even if they're looking at it 3 or 4 months from now, then we can also put just updates on the website itself in context to if we've received more money or not. So maybe adding that to the slide as well, Ms. Warner-Wiggins. And then our next meeting is November the 13th. And so getting a PowerPoint edited to where we all agree, we'll probably be doing it through like email, just approving it, adding things, taking things away, and then creating a script to go along with it, and then recording it. Can we also, and Ms. Warner-Wiggins, this would be on a separate email chain than the email in regards to availability to meet with the people. Can we send out an email seeing people's availability before the election date to like just kind of read the script, record it, and go from there? I don't see that taking longer than 30 minutes, really, to be quite frank. And if every we're gonna go through real, Commissioner Nelson, we're gonna go through it real quick. I promise you. If every commissioner takes 2 slides, doesn't stutter, we are done. And then we'll put it on. It'll be real cute. No more than 30 minutes. I really don't. And to be honest, just thinking about the analytics of how people pay attention, I really wouldn't want the presentation to go longer than 5 to 7 minutes to begin with. But I'm giving 30 minutes just in case we have to give Ms. Warner-Wiggins a whole bunch of material to cut and paste through. But I don't think it would be that long that we'd have to do it. So is everyone kind of in agreement with that?
Well,
that process? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just I'm not sure I quite follow the whole thing. I'm still, I guess my mind is still around having a public Zoom meeting in which we invite people to come, and I could see we could have a combination of canned and live presentations. I mean, we could have it all live presentation, but I wouldn't want I want to go beyond just having a strategy for getting a canned presentation to circulate. That's fine, and that's helpful. So I guess the thing, what about making and maybe this is what you're thinking, and I'm just missing it so far, but what if our 13th meeting is a public meeting, and instead of having a regular meeting, we make the whole thing, invite the public. Maybe we don't have it at 6, maybe we have to have it at 7 or something, which is maybe more a conventional time for public participation. And then we could have part of it pre-recorded and slides, or we could have, but we would definitely want some of it live and making some presentations and having a way for questions. And what do you think about that?
I think to be honest, we could do it that way. We could do it to where we do it on the 13th, and the first portion is us giving the presentation, and then obviously we're recording the whole thing. So then the part of us giving the presentation can be, truncated and put up and then sent out to civic associations. And then the rest could be more of the dialogue and the questions and the conversation with the public around why public financing is important. So I think that's fine. That works for me. I just want to make sure. Yeah.
We could record that whole session and archive and make that available as well.
Yes. I think that's fine. Is now you want to make the whole November 13th meeting that and not change the date to be before, like change our November 13th meeting to be before the election cycle to maybe get that sort of election people in? I mean, if not, that's fine, but I'm just.
Yeah, just looking at the calendar, it's very tight now.
Tight.
the election's 4 weeks from yesterday, and I just wonder if we have the bandwidth to really put together a good program and market it and get people to attend when there's just so much attention on campaigning. So if people think we could do that, I guess we would need to what dates would work, but otherwise, the week after the election and our meeting might be
The
still a
best
good
week.
time.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I just want to make sure I'm hearing all voices and context to the options. So I do think going past it, I see you, Commissioner Teacher, 1 second. Going past the election cycle, doing it right after it's done, and then talking about why this is very important would be it could be a good conversation. Commissioner Teacher?
Yes, I was just wondering, is this just us trying to do something, or are we liaising with all the good government groups that work towards getting the legislation, who have been interested in the legislation in the past and maybe have not concentrated on it more recently? Are we trying to reach out to all those groups and trying to do, build the public audience? Because I mean, I feel like there's separate groups, right? There are people who already know something about the program, who need to be re-energized and brought back in, or are we trying to just go? Is this an activist sort of a presentation, or is this a presentation more to like, this is a civic organization and somebody who hasn't heard about it is whom we're trying to educate? So I'm a little, those are two different types of things, right?
In all transparency, I think that we could accomplish both based on the advertising that I think Commissioner Dan was referring to, and just pulling people into the conversation. So we need to make sure that the voters themselves the constituents themselves are aware of this program and how they can like support it, be into it, buy into it. So that's the first thing that we really need to get a handle on and push out. And then the second thing would be, to your point, re-engaging people who really supported this program and got it off the ground, and bringing them back in and letting them know, hey, this is where we're at, and this is where we need you to plug back in to make sure that we can move forward with the next phase, the next steps of what you put the groundwork into. And I feel like both of those things can be accomplished in one meeting, particularly if we make sure that we are engaging with those groups and saying, hey, it is important that you or a representative from your organization are on this call coming up on November 13th. And really making sure that we're reaching out to all these other organizations that, the Divine Nine, the civic associations, the HOAs, all these people that are everywhere in this election cycle. For everybody needs to also be aware of these other legislative policies that continuously directly affect our community, that are already in place and that need the level of support from the community as a whole.
And I would think this would just be a start. We want it to be as robust as possible. So it would be fine if we want to ask any of these other groups to, I don't know what the right word would be, co-host or promote it. But I think at this point, we're probably not, I don't know if we have the time. So I don't know if we would want any of them to make a statement. Potentially we could get some of the good government groups to say why it's important to them. But I think also this is a start, and so we could offer to come and send commissioners, representatives to other meetings that people are having. And we could even talk about, should we have then, maybe a public meeting in North County in December and one in South County in January or something, to try to build interest and keep some momentum going.
I think particularly in context of what you said, the teacher, about these groups that were initially so into it and then, you know, may have for other reasons directed their energy somewhere else. This is a perfect opportunity for them to partner with us to, you know, host a meeting, to host an informational session, to have people come out and have that conversation.
And what would people think about maybe having Delegate Mary Lehman as a guest speaker or as part of that meeting? So she's, you know, a current delegate from up in the Laurel area. When she was on the county council, she was the lead sponsor and proponent of the program. So I think in one sense it could be helpful and appropriate, and also might attract some other attention to say we've got you know, a delegate as part of the program, and, you know, giving her a few minutes to state why it's important and why it happened, you know, 8 years ago, and why it's important now. That would be one potential speaker I could see that would be potential good to add, and then include her in the announcement.
Do we agree with that? I'm fine with that. I think I saw Commissioner Tolson say yes, but that's only because I'm partially good at lip reading. So, okay. Commissioner Nelson, are you okay with that? I'm fine with her being on there. Commissioner Satitra?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right, well let's move forward in the emails in regards to I think Ms. Warner Riggins already sent out the presentation. Let's move forward in the emails this week, chopping and providing feedback on the email on the presentation, what we want to add, what we want to change, so that we can finalize it, and then we can start working on the script this week as well. Going into next week, because I realize it's Wednesday, going into next week, so that we can finalize the script. And then Ms. Warner Wiggins, can you send an email out to Delegate Lehman in context to inviting her to the November 13th meeting and asking her to be part of, I guess, a panel discussion after our presentation in context to the bill and why it's important and the need for support. Does that work? All right. So I think let's get through this part of our outreach plan first. Let's nail down and get through November 13th, and then we can do the next steps. Commissioner Dan and Commissioner Satitra and Commissioner Tolson, Commissioner Nelson for the physical outreach in person. Okay. So let's get through that first. Now we have for our last moment, county council oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Dan.
Just to put a bow on it or something. Do we want to just make up our meeting and move our meeting to like 7 o'clock, or is that the right time?
Oh, yeah.
Do we have other business we would need to do? So we would need to start at 6:30 and then this program will be at 7, or is that some ways I think it's cleaner if we just make the whole meeting that, but we may, you know, and but we'll have hopefully we'll have information we can share by email about whether we've got a meeting scheduled or, you know, with that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, so definitely want to have an email go out to all the civic associations that we have information for, and any other organizations that we have information for. So that's first off. And then second of all, okay, as a commission, are we okay with making the November 13th meeting totally about the presentation and community outreach, and as well as moving it to 7 p.m.?
So I think we should do the presentation at 7 p.m. We could probably figure out if we need to start half an hour before for any business that we might have. We can figure that out between now and, a week or two. And that would give us half an hour to deal with that before we launch into the public portion.
So are you saying, Commissioner Satish, are you saying keep the 6:30, or I'm sorry, have a 6:30 start time, but then for the actual public portion would be 7 p.m. is what we would be telling
Right,
people to log
that's
on
what
at
I
that
was,
time?
yeah,
Okay,
that's what I was thinking. I mean, and we don't know what all business we would have to deal with, but between now and sort of close to the date, we can determine, what the business is that we have to deal with and deal with that first and then open the meeting up publicly.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
it's
sounds
all
good.
public, but we don't have to announce. I mean, people may not want to come and listen to us jabbering, so we could just announce the time as 7 for the public meeting.
okay.
That's fine, and we would say 7 till 8, and then I think one of the things we could do is, invite questions, and if we get questions like in chat and all that during the meeting, and if some of those we can't answer on the spot, then that would be, we'll make a commitment to respond to that, and then maybe we also can build some interest in people attending and sitting in on our next meeting in December. That will create some following or interest to get updated in the program, because one way they can get updated is through the website, all that, but another way is by coming to our meetings.
Okay, so I just want to get like feedback from Commissioner Tolson and Nelson. Are you guys fine with a 6:30 start time for any business? And then our public facing communications, inviting people to the meeting, will have a 7 p.m. start time for them to get on and learn about for us to do the presentation, the part with Delegate Lehman, and then run from like 7 to 8 p.m. Is that okay? I know that's a little bit later than what we usually do. But does that work for everybody?
That works for me.
Yeah, I'm okay with the 6:30 start time. I just want to make sure that we don't have a full agenda, like let's say
Fair.
Right.
like 2 minutes to have time to have any last minute tests, mic checks and video checks and background checks and all of that,
Yeah, agreed. That's a good point. Maybe the 6:30 start time will just be like hey, we're going to chit chat about this stuff, but really focusing on preparing for the meeting and all that. Okay, that's fair. Thank you.
That day, I'm just want to just say that I'm flexible that day. If something comes up and there's like, we got a response back and we need to meet, then I'm flexible because I marked this off at 6, so I won't schedule something in case you have to have an emergency meeting at 6 o'clock. I will be. I'll make myself. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you. I'm gonna mark my thing off too right now. All right. Okay, so we'll go with that. All right. So do we have a bow on it so that we can move on to the county council presentation? So the county council presentation, I feel like is gonna kind of be like our general outreach presentation, but that needs to have a harder edge. I actually don't want us to be editing both presentations at the same time because I don't want us to get kind of confused. But to be honest, when I say harder edge, I just mean like we need to be really kind of talking about the numbers. Like, hey, this is how much we had. This is how much we're supposed to have. This is how much we're spending on special elections. This is how this affects it. All that information needs to be in the presentation. We also need to add, when we get an answer from Ms. Bell and Mr. Maddox about how it can affect the county council in context to not funding the fair elections and in context to people who might have wanted to run for a district seat. If there's any like legal issues or anything like that. So we could actually bring that up in our presentation as well. I to quote Mel, I'm not a lawyer, but it seems like there might be some issues if you are defunding a program that is meant for other candidates to run against you. But we'll just kind of see. Yeah. But I'm not a lawyer, so somebody else might see it a different way. So maybe just getting their feedback on that to make sure that we can add that into the presentation as well. I think for the county council presentation, we can focus on that after, like we get the November 13th thing done. But I just want to have that in the back of our minds in context to the county council presentation can also kind of be a catch-all for an administrative presentation as well. And granted, those are two different branches, and we'll be asking them in two different perspectives. Like, we'll be asking the administration straight up, like, hey, can we have this money? While for the county council, we'll probably be saying, hey, don't remove the money or increase it, but don't take it out. But those are some things I want to think about. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to kind of put into this conversation?
I mean, what the council could do is just move it to something else, right? I mean, the supplemental budget comes from the executive's office, and the council has the ability to say yes or no, or move it to some other part or some other program, right? So I think those are all the steps of, just as we saw the $400,000 that was budgeted for the FY 2025 budget was just, removed. The budget was still the same amount, but then that amount was removed and moved to something else.
Okay, well, we have come to the end of our agenda. If anyone has anything else to say, please say it at this time.
So I'm not sure if I missed the email, but I don't think I can put my finger on the background.
On the what?
On the background that you guys have.
Oh,
I can send it out again.
Okay, I might have missed it, and I know my email changed, and I lost some things.
Oh, that's fine. Yes.
We'll try to be more uniform for the public-facing meeting.
For the meeting, yeah. Mine's I logged in and logged out, and then this was not in my thing. So then I appreciate Commissioner. I don't know what happened, but when I saw Commissioner Nelson, I was like, oh, let me get my little thing. And then I see it's backwards, so I'm gonna fix that next time. I have that fixed.
It's not backwards for us.
It's not backwards for you guys? Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Yay. All right. But yeah, I saw Commissioner Nelson had it on. I was like, oh, let me get that on. So, but yeah. Okay. So we've got a game plan. Miss Warner Wiggins already sent out an email. So let's go ahead and start, providing our feedback to that and then drafting a script. Miss Warner Wiggins, if you could kind of, Miss Warner Wiggins, hi. If you could kind of draft an accompanying script. That presentation. I promise you I'll edit it and I'll add lots of stuff, and me and all the other commissioners will probably throw our 8 cents in. Commissioner Nelson really did a great job on that other letter. So I promise you we're gonna put the feedback on it. We just need a baseline if you could. All right. So
question, didn't we have a Google Drive?
We did, didn't we?
I feel like people were having trouble accessing it, is what I recall, but we can try again. Yeah, I think we were having trouble sharing documents because people use different systems and such.
Okay.
I'm just trying to make, if you could share it, we'll, because when we started collaborating on that document, we can all see. But if you want to get 1 million emails,
we can try it. We'll try it.
Okay.
Oh no.
What happened? Yeah.
All right. Okay. So it is 7:13, and we are going to be on call next month for a while, ladies and gentlemen. So with that being said, I'll catch you on the emails. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Yep.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, be safe until next time, and I can't wait to see you guys again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.